Yeah, it's been nice. Been nice weather down here after. It was a little rough around Christmas, but after that, it's been nice.
All right, are we ready to go, Mark?
Yes, we're ready.
All right, let's call this meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Genslinger.
Here.
Jurza.
Yes.
Larson.
Here.
Yep.
Osterloo.
Here.
Penny.
Here.
Schmitz.
Here.
Sonny.
Here.
Dosher.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The agenda for this meeting has been provided to you as members. Does anybody have any conflict of interest that they see on that proposed agenda?
I will abstain from number 8.
Okay, thank you.
And I will abstain from number 8.
Okay. All right. Let's go on to the agenda itself. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda that's been provided?
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded that the agenda be approved as provided. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none. Mark, it's your turn.
Genslinger.
Yes.
Jurza.
Yes.
Osterloo.
Yes.
Penny.
Yes.
Schmitz.
Yes.
Sonny.
Yes.
Larson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right. The minutes of the previous meeting of the 13th of February have also been provided in the packet of information. Is there any additions or corrections to those minutes that you have noticed? Hearing none, I assume we're ready for a motion.
So. Second.
Moved and seconded that the minutes be approved as presented. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, Mark, it's your turn again.
Osterloo.
Yes.
Penny.
Yes.
Schmitz.
Yes.
Sonny.
Yes.
Genslinger.
Yep.
Jurza.
Yes.
Larson.
Yep.
Motion carried.
The next meeting should be on our regular schedule, the 13th of March, and we'll have it at noon. Do I hear a motion for the blanket?
Set the date. Second.
Moved and seconded that the blanket be approved as presented. Discussion on the motion.
We will be going over the comp plan at that meeting, so it should be a little bit longer meeting, just so you guys are aware of that.
Okay, and we can review our comp plan again, can't we?
Yep.
All right. Moved and seconded that the next meeting be scheduled for the 13th. Any more comments? Hearing none, I assume you're ready to vote. Mark, your turn again.
Schmitz.
Yes.
Sonny.
Yes.
Genslinger.
Yes.
Jurza.
Yes.
Osterloo.
Yes.
Penny.
Yes.
Larson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
All right, next item on the agenda is a plat of Lot 1 of Albrecht's Addition in the northeast quarter of Section 18 T103 North, Range 60 West of the 5th parallel meridian to Davidson County, South Dakota, as requested by Bruce Albrecht. I would guess that this is within our zoning jurisdiction.
It is actually not. It is just on the other side of the road from the EPJ, but it's within the 3 mile of city limits. That's
Okay.
how this goes with us. Applicant is plotting off 5 acres of land for his son. County will hear this on the 14th and the 21st of March. There will be a variance that goes with this, but per county ordinance, it's within third of kin, so there's no reason to deny the variance or the plat.
Any questions? Anybody out there in Hinterland have any comments about this proposed plat? Seeing and hearing none, we are ready for a motion.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded that the plat be approved with a restriction, I am sure, of county approval. Is that correct, gentlemen?
I'll add that on county approval.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote. Mark, your turn again.
Genslinger.
Yes.
Jurza.
Yes.
Osterloo.
Yes.
Penny.
Yes.
Schmitz.
Yes.
Sonny.
Yes.
Larson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
I might mention for our audience that is listening or looking at us through the media, we are required to have a roll call vote when we're having people who are telephonically included in this meeting, and we have a couple today. So, with that information, Hearing an action on establishing the boundaries and approval of a projected plan for a tax increment financing district number 29.
The city has been approached to do TIF number 29, 3rd and Main. It's the Walworth building, as you might know from back in the day. When we first originally received this application, I did send it to SHPO right away. They are requiring an 11.1 review, so that'll have to go in front of Historic Preservation Commission and go back to SHPO, and depending on what they decide, it could come to council or it could be done at that point in time. I'll let Don, since we all know Don likes to talk a lot, and go over the TIF for you, or you can ask Skylar to do it.
Yeah, this isn't our first trip with the TIF request. And Stephanie, tell us, we have a bunch that we have paid off, do we not?
Yeah, I don't have that in front of me right now, but if you look at the second page of the, wait, not second page.
Page 8.
Page 8 of the project plan, it'll show you what TIFs are remaining. We do have several that are on the list that are also pretty close to being paid off as well.
Okay, thank you. Just thought I would mention that before we start, because there's a lot of times there's controversy over, do we ever close these things out? And we do. Thank you. John?
Thanks, Jay. So this is tax increment district number 29. It is for the refurbishment of the Woolworth building. The draft you guys have, I updated today. When we submitted this to the city, the 22 levy wasn't out yet, and so we were using the 21 levy, and I got that information in there now. We also, at that time, had another TIF that we thought would be brought before this one would be, and so this one was going to be TIF 30, and now it's TIF 29. TIF 30 hasn't been submitted yet, so there's a few changes, and I'll go through the agreement quickly, and I'll point out where there's changes. One of the biggest changes in the amount, we've lowered the amount of being requested in the TIF because the mill levy dropped this year, and so it had an effect on the projected taxes. Don Dahl is also here. Don works for John Adamo. John Adamo is the developer. You might remember the name. He bought the Western building and is working on that, and he owns some other buildings downtown. And so he's asking for tax increment financing to help speed up the refurbishment of the Woolworth building. So any questions on the construction or anything, Don's here to answer those.
And again, for the audience that may be watching us on TV, Mr. Peterson is a local attorney, and he's come before us numerous times on previous TIFs that he's worked on with us.
So the purpose of TIF, or TID number 29, is to reconstruct and remodel a historic building consisting of 3 floors and a basement located at 300 North Main Street. That's known as the Woolworth Building. The project will include a partial remodel, following plans designed by a contractor to comply with and retain the historic attributes of the building. The first floor will be partially remodeled and reconstructed to continue to be utilized for commercial retail space, or a combination of retail and office. Floors 2 and 3 will be remodeled and continue to be used for apartments. It's anticipated that the renovation should be completed by next summer, summer 24. Stephanie had pointed out on page 8 is a list of the various TIF districts that are still in effect and the total base value of those TIFs. South Dakota law provides that the number of TIFs that a city would have can't exceed 10% of the total taxable value of the city, your city. Taking the estimates that we have, the total TIFs as compared to the total taxable value is about 1.5%. So we're well below the 10%. The TIF amount that we are looking for is $527,257. It's estimated that the project cost to bring the building back to life will be $1.7 million, and so the balance of that will be paid by the developer, and we're looking to capture $527,257, which is the amount of the projected taxes. We're asking for a term of 20 years or till the 527,257 is reached. So if that's reached in year 15, the TIF's over in 15, and year 20, if it's 400,000, then 400,000 is the limit, and the TIF expires at the end of the 20 years. There's certain conditions that the city requires all TIFs in Mitchell to have, and those that start on page 11. There are conditions of the developer agreement relating to constitutional debt. One of the things is that the city looks for is that a TIF will not count against the city's constitutional debt, because they have a lot of projects going on and they don't want it to count against it. In working with Justin, we've devised a formula that we think works for that, and it's set forth in here that the city is not guaranteeing any amount of money. Whatever taxes get collected from the building, they'll remit up to that dollar amount. If there aren't taxes or there isn't anything to remit, they don't have to remit it, and they're not signing off on any of the borrowing or anything. It's a developer TIF. If you go over to, I guess, page 4, let's skip over to page 19. There's a chart on page 19, or a spreadsheet that shows total costs of the project, then it shows non-project costs, and then TIF eligible costs. So if you look, the plans for the building that Don can expand on a little bit, but so we start out with the rehabilitation of the apartment units. And again, those would not be a TIF eligible fund because you can't use TIF funds for housing in and of itself. And that's the estimate there, the bid that is $550,000. So that would be paid for by the developer. Creation of office space, less electrical and plumbing is $350,000. Those are non-project costs that we're showing. The eligible TIF costs, we believe, are the common areas, the public hallways, plumbing repair, flooring, paint, community restroom, that's $250,000. Then there's tuck pointing, the outside of the building at $150,000. And then the elevator in the building, it's totally not being used at all, right, Don?
No, it's not.
Yeah, it has to be totally replaced, and so the estimate on that's $400,000. So the total of non-project costs, project non is about $1.7 million. 900 would be non-project, 800,000 would be eligible for TIF, and we're asking for 527,257 towards those amounts. The balance of that will be either self-funded by Mr. Adamo or by Mr. Adamo through a loan. Let's see. Schedule 2 is an economic feasibility study. If you drop down to the bullet points down there, those are the items that the TIF will be addressing and taking care of. If you have any questions on that, and I can let Don go on that a little bit. So we believe that the TIF can generate, we're using $1.5 million as new increment. And then the tax assessed would bring that to $1,422,000. So the addition to the tax roll would be $1,422,000 for the $500,000 TIF. It would generate about $27,751 a year in new taxes. The schedule, or on page 22, is a spreadsheet of the projected taxes with the breakdown between the various taxing authorities. And I think I'll stop there and take any questions that you may have, or ask Don Don can answer them as well.
I do just have one comment. The city does have we have a TIF review committee, excuse me. We've got our planning director on there, Public Works, Finance, city attorney, and myself. We reviewed the project plan. We did have some recommended changes, which we gave back to the developer, and those have been incorporated. I just wanted to point out, if you're looking at the project cost page, no, I just lost where I had it. What page? 19? Okay. That alone, when we reviewed that, the tuck pointing that's necessary, as well as the replacement of the elevator, those two improvements are going to ensure that the building will be viable for a long time. We know that we've had issues with downtown buildings in the past, so seeing those two things be part of the TIF eligible cost is what we were very supportive of.
I hope you can get a tuck pointer for 150 grand.
Me too. I think Don wishes that too. It's, this is another step. I'll talk about Mr. Adamo for a couple minutes, but, Mitchell's core business, like every other city in South Dakota, is they get old, they need a lot of work, and, he stepped up to the plate with the Western building, is working on that. He's got a plan for that parking lot across the street and with some garaging, and then now this building. And so that whole corner on Main Street will be getting refacing and hopefully bringing some older buildings back to life and better repair.
Well, I've been around Mitchell since I was a teenager, and that Woolworth building has been a mainstay building forever. And I'm kind of glad to see, as I'm reading this, when I get this schedule the other day, I'm thinking, wow, that sounds like a real deal to happen. So,
Well, one of the things I guess I forgot to mention that I think was interesting as I read their plan is that there's landlocked buildings or commercial buildings inside the building, and the idea is that they want to make those so there's entries and exits out to Main Street from that. And so that in and of itself should make that a more attractive building to tenants for business purposes.
one disappointment, though, I didn't see a lunch counter in it. And I remember the lunch counter from when I was a little kid. So. Anything else that this commission's got to ask Don? And do we have more comments from the audience? Hearing none. Our project here then is to approve the plan.
You would be approving setting the boundaries as one motion, and then a second motion would be to approve the project plan and recommend approval or disapproval of the TIF. So it's two different motions for it.
Yep. To the council. Questions, guys?
The Western building has a TIF on it now. Which one is that in page 8?
I think that's 8.
That's the one that has a value of $0 because at the time the city owned it, so it was tax exempt.
26.
Thank you.
Anything else? Hearing no other comments or questions, I would assume that we're ready to set a boundary. Do I hear a motion to set the boundary as recommended?
Yeah, I'll make the motion to set the boundary.
And just for clarification, your motion would be to set the boundary as lot 7, 8, 9, and 10, block 2, original townhouse, city of Mitchell, Davidson County, South Dakota.
That's what I think it is.
I'll second that.
Moved and seconded that the boundary be
Per the
set.
document. I don't know where those numbers came from, but this year, so I'm with you.
Moved and seconded. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none, I assume we're ready to vote. Mark, it's your turn.
Sonny,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Penny,
Yes.
Osterloo,
Yes.
Gurza,
Abstain.
Genslinger, Larson.
Yes.
Motion carried to set the boundary.
And you guys must be involved in working with the owner on this thing, huh? Was, okay. All right. Next item is to recommend to the council to approve or disapprove the plan. Actually, we should make the motion to approve the plan, and if the motion fails, then the council knows what our thoughts were on it.
This motion would be to approve the project plan and recommend approval of TIF District Number 29 for whoever makes the motion.
So moved. Second.
Moved and seconded that DIF District Number 29 be recommended approval to the council. I think that sums it up pretty well. Discussion on the motion. Hearing none. Mark, it's your turn again.
Osterloo,
Yes.
Penny,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Sonny,
Yes.
Genslinger, Gurza,
Abstain.
Larson.
Yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good job, Don. Is there any other business to come before this body at this time? Hearing none, we are ready to do public input. If you need to address the board on an item that is not on this agenda, excluding the personnel items, please come forward to the podium, state your name and your concern. Presentations will be limited to 3 minutes. Items will be considered, but no action will be taken at this time.
I have just a PDF form that they.
Seeing that there is no one coming to the podium, this meeting is adjourned.